Hello, everybody, and welcome to Uskie and Herbie show here on this July 1st. Uskie, how's everything going?
Great, man. How are you? Like that? You get a little haircut?
I can't hear you.
Did you get a haircut?
I got a little haircut from my barber up north. Yeah, my mother.
That's great. It looks great, man. How are things? How are things in Baltimore?
Not bad. Everything's good. Yeah, I'm going on vacation this week.
It's big.
Not bad. Everything's good here. It's warm. Yeah, it's warm out. So you can see the current temperature down there, 83 degrees. I put that down there for people to know what's going on. But we got a full show tonight here on the program. We got Ted Alexander, who is the voice of the Monarchs of Old Dominion. Old Dominion has been struggling in the last couple of years after that big win over Virginia Tech a couple of years ago. That derailed Virginia Tech from some bowl consideration.
Yeah, we'll see what he says. ODU, they're always good for either getting an upset or playing someone really, really tight each and every year. So they're more competitive and a new head coach. So looking forward to getting his thoughts on that.
Let's bring in our good friend here on the program, Ted Alexander, who is the voice of the Monarchs of Old Dominion. So, Ted, thanks for joining us. How's the weather in your neck of the woods?
My neck of the woods. It's July. It's Bobby Bonilla Day, and it's humid and temperatures in the middle 80s. You got to love it.
Wait, what's with the Bobby Bonilla Day?
I got that all day today for everybody.
Yeah, what's with the Bobby Bonilla Day, Ted?
Bobby, as a longtime Met fan, it's just the day where Bobby Bonilla gets another check from the Mets. He signed a contract eons ago, and part of that deal, he brilliantly negotiated it, was to have yearly installments paid for years and years and years, and until he's 72. So well done to Bobby Bonilla and his agent. But as a Met fan, it's a day that gets us through the summer without baseball.
Somehow I like you because I'm a big Met fan too, and I was like, I know this Ted Alexander guy. I'm thinking I know why I like him because he's a Met fan. I did not know you're a Met fan, but you're number one on my book right now. So
yeah, I was there the first home Met World Series game ever, Game 3 of the '69 series against the Orioles.
Wow.
Yeah, ever since it's been all Mets all the time, and that's some happy times and lots of funky times. Let's put it that way.
Well, hey, we got 60 games this year, so we'll see what we can do in 60 games. I think we can do it.
Ted, I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, and George Foster was my coach for All-Stars, and I also went to high school with Sarah Seaver, who's Tom Seaver's daughter. So I got Mets in my veins, but I'm from the Bronx, so what are you gonna do?
The world gets smaller and smaller. I grew up in Darien, so we're Fairfield County. We got Fairfield County in our blood.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Time out here. I got to throw the flag early here in this show. George Foster, who I grew up watching when he was in the 80s, he got let go in '86 for Lee Mazzilli, came back, and then Tom Seaver's, was it daughter?
Yeah.
Sarah. And you're a Yankee fan? Come on. What are you doing to me?
What can I do? It's in the blood. Anyway. Hey, Ted, as we transition over to football, looking at this ODU team, I looked at the strengths, and they need a lot of help. But one thing in particular stood out. It was their lack of a passing game. In fact, the second least inefficient passing game. What has ODU done to rectify that problem heading into the season?
Well, the crazy thing is the craziness of our world at this point. New head coach Ricky Ronnie came from the quarterback and offensive guru guy at Penn State, and this is his first head coaching job, and he's assembled a staff that is raring and ready to go. They've been doing everything on Zoom calls and those types of things. Finally, this month, they're going to be able to see their players on the practice field for the first time, and many serious decisions have to be made, including at quarterback. Stone Smart got most of the starts a year ago. He was more of a dual-purpose guy who was more comfortable running than throwing. At the end of the year, true freshman Hayden Wolf, more of a classic drop-back passer type, got his 4 games to preserve his 4 years of eligibility, but he showed signs of life. But the crazy thing for not only the Monarchs, but for everybody, there's been no spring ball. There's been no nothing. And when you're a first-year head coach, coming in and trying to get your system and your methodologies and your culture in place, it's awfully difficult to do it over a Zoom call. Now, there are things that you can accomplish with Zoom that make you tighter team once you finally get on the practice field, but boy, they haven't been able to get those reps. You got 17 starters returning. Okay, that's the good news. Well, the bad news is the team was 1-11 a year ago. Was it player? Was it personnel? Was it scheme? Was it a little bit of everything? Probably the latter. But we really don't know what Ricky Ronnie's going to be able to do. He's done everything right thus far. He's hit the ground running. He's gone out and talked to the donors and the fans, and he's got people excited about Monarch football. The question is, though, when will that be and what will that be?
That's true, and I agree with you. We don't know what's going on with all the spikes going on with this COVID-19, and the NFL today decided they're going to cut 2 preseason games, and it's just we don't know what college football is going to bring. And I feel like we got to have this wait and see approach. It might take us all the way up to August 31st to see what's going on.
Well, I feel for guys like Coach Ronnie, his first year with the Monarchs. He hasn't been able to get in there and get his hands dirty yet the way he'd like to and the way any coach would like to. I think of Lane Kiffin at Mississippi and Mike Leach at Mississippi State, and there are many others who are just starting out in their new gigs. The thing that Ronnie has is that this is also his very first head coaching gig. Now, again, he's done everything right thus far. He's got the youngest staff in the country, and they're ready to go. They've got the enthusiasm. They've got everything they need except players on the field practicing and learning.
Hey, Ted, talk to us about maybe an impact player, in terms of recruiting. Who's a freshman that stands out in your mind that could potentially, be a game changer for the Monarchs?
Great question. Very difficult question to answer at this point because we haven't been able to see them on the field doing their thing to see if, I don't put a lot of credence into the number of stars next to a student athlete's name because let's see what they have when the rubber hits the road, so to speak. So you have to have those types of things. I understand for recruiting services and all that type of thing, but show me the guy who has heart. Show me the guy that on a bad day is still going to do well. Show me the guy that's going to help his teammates be better around him when the chips are down and when it's all flinging around negatively, who can come out of the storm and make everybody better. We won't find that out until September the 4th, we hope, when we take on the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game for you guys. You've been doing a lot of ACC games. Like a couple of years ago, you guys knocked off Virginia Tech and what's his name, the guy who transferred to Maryland, who was good last year up there, got injured in that game. Yeah,
Jackson. Yep.
Yeah. So it's cool that you guys are bringing all the ACC schools, to come to Norfolk and saying, hey, welcome to Norfolk, and we might give you a slacking and see you later.
Well, we've got the non-conference schedule this year is Wake Forest to open things up. The Hampton Pirates from the 757 will be in town. Also, Virginia, the Cavaliers come to Corn Bluff Field at SB Ballard Stadium, and the other non-conference game is a game at UConn. So there's some pop in the non-conference schedule, and again, with a new team and a new culture, it'll be fascinating to see what happens on September the 4th and the weeks going after that to see how this team gets better each and every week. And I think that's the goal, just to get better each week.
Yeah, Ted, you mentioned the difficulties. I mean, it's hard enough coming into a new program, but then with all this COVID stuff, you can't sit down. You can't, I guess the Zoom calls, but the level of difficulty with the verbiage and the scheme. But talk to us, when all those things are in place, what do ODU fans, what is this offense going to look like? Is it going to, obviously we don't, have the talent that we had at Penn State, but what is he going to implement here? What are the strengths of this team?
No huddle again, and I think it's going to be a quarterback making solid decisions type of offense. You've got Eric Kuma, the transfer from Virginia Tech, coming back for his senior year. He'll have a bigger impact. We hope he can stay injury free. You've got Elijah Davis in the backfield, who's shown flashes of brilliance in his short Old Dominion career. Blake Watson on the jet sweep, those types of things. I think the theme with the Monarchs and maybe a lot of teams is get the ball in the hands of the playmakers and let them go do their thing.
Do you feel like the defense might be one of those strong points for you guys? Because I know you don't know about the offense, but is this the same defense coming back with White, the junior, Keon White, who's been there for all 12 games last year?
Keon White, who was a tight end when he began his Old Dominion career, switched to the other side of the ball. It could become a playmaker and a game changer. He's going to do nothing but get better, and that's going to help the defensive line. Jeremy Miser, kid out of Moeller in Cincinnati, he's gotten better and better in sort of a workman lunch pail kind of way in the defensive tackle position. You've got two really good linebackers in Lawrence Garner and Jordan Young, always near the top of Conference USA in tackles. Whether they can get the pressure on the quarterback, whether they can take some of the pressure off the defensive backfield led by Caleb Ford Dement, who had a wonderful first season with Old Dominion. We have to wait and see that, and it all has to work together. Monarchs don't have the five-star guys that are going to come out, and as soon as you see them hit the field, you say, wow. So they have to do it as an ensemble cast, so to speak, and that'll be the key for both sides of the ball plus special teams.
That's true. Well, Ted, I have to ask you a New York Met question because we had Met talk before we came on here. With Jacob deGrom being the strong point in the pitching rotation, do we have anybody in Queens that might be a surprise in the pitching rotation? Because I know Syndergaard is down with the shoulder, and he had Tommy John, and I think he's done for a whole rest of the year and next year.
The thing I have to think about as a Met fan was how long ago was it when we said we've got these 5 arms, they're going to be 20-win-a-year guys for the next 5-6 years.
Exactly.
Stephen Matz, who I mean, and Wheeler, you just don't know. But you hope there's someone in the farm system who can get an opportunity and seize that opportunity, and in a 60-game sprint, show up when it matters most. And let's hope the bullpen can stop blowing save after save.
Yeah, I was reading something last night or watching something. Did you know in 1970 the Orioles had 20 game winners? 4 pitchers had 20 game wins, and hasn't been matched since.
Jim Palmer, Mike Cuellar, Dave McNally, and
the guy from San Diego.
The guy from San Diego. His name slips my mind.
Pat Dobson.
Pat Dobson.
Wow.
That's not bad, though.
Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive.
About that. I was watching it last night going, wow, that's pretty interesting. And I think the A's of 73 almost got there. Yeah, they needed one more pitcher. So
the thing, just to bring it back to what we're all facing, it'll be fascinating to see, and we all hope there's football in the fall, and we hope everybody's safe and that type of stuff. But it'll be fascinating to see the teams that have figured this new normal out best. Those that can hit the ground running, and they've been efficient, and their guys have been motivated to do everything they can on their own. So when they can get together on the practice field, they can make the most of every one of those practices. Those that boldly go and say, you know what, let's do this. And they're going to be teams that are left behind a little bit just because they haven't been through this, and maybe they haven't figured it out as well as some others. And we all hope everybody, first and foremost, is safe, not only from the student-athlete standpoint, but the fans as well. But it'll be fascinating to see who's figured it out best the soonest.
Yeah, hey Ted, I got to ask you, what would be considered? Let's just for a minute say that everything's going to play out. Fans are going to be in the stand. We're going to get a full schedule. What in your mind constitutes a good season for ODU?
I think being competitive, improving, showing signs of life, showing signs that the new foundation, face it, Monarchs have only had one head coach in their entire 11-year return to football. Bobby Wilder did a wonderful job. It's time to turn the page. It's Ricky Ronnie's show right now. It'll be a success if his program takes root on the football field and in the stadiums and in the fan base to where people have hope.
Exactly. Well, Ted, thanks for coming on. Ted Alexander, who is the voice of the Old Dominion Monarchs. So, Ted, I'm going to your neck of the woods this weekend. I'm going down to Harrisonburg, Virginia, in the Commonwealth. So, hopefully we'll talk to you before the start of the football season.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. You do great work, and we appreciate the opportunity you give us to talk a little college football.
Yeah, say hi to the Darien Blue Wave for me.
There we go. The Wave.
Big Red.
Thanks for coming on.
Trivia question. My only soccer goal, and I was on the soccer team at Darien, my only goal came at Greenwich, baby.
Oh, that was good. Thanks.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, folks. That's Ted Alexander, the voice of the Old Dominion Monarchs. 7:14 here on the Uskie and Herbie show. I'm Chris Heidel, and Euan McCreath used to be a Met fan, now a Yankee fan, but it's okay.
It's the roots. It's the what am I gonna do, man?
We'll ride you this evening, son.
He actually lives like maybe 20 minutes away from where I grew up. Maybe
that's cool.
So,
nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's funny. He was great. We got to bring him back.
Right. Let's bring in another great reporter who covers the the good old FIU Panthers. Last year they beat Miami down there at the Marlins Stadium. And that was a big win for that program. Eric Henry, but Eric, thanks for coming on. But they didn't make it. They made it to a bowl game and lost to Arkansas State. So what does Butch Davis got to do this year to make this a positive season? Because I know beating Miami was probably the highlight of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really going to take a couple of things. The first thing is fixing the run defense. Butch Davis, for all of the talk of, yes, they lost to Arkansas State last year in the bowl game and beat Miami. They were coming off of 2 straight bowl appearances, which is the first time in program history. So the major thing is going to be fixing the run defense. I'll give you guys a stat. FIU over the past 2 years, they've given up over 175 yards rushing in 12 contests, which obviously is not going to get the job done against premier competition, especially whether it's Conference USA or, trying to beat a P5 in general. So that's going to be the major thing. And then they're also going to have to replace a quarterback in James Morgan, who went to the New York Jets in the 4th round. So those are going to be the 2 major things. If they can take care of those things, they'll repeat their success and, go to a 4th straight bowl game, which will be the first time in program history, and go from there.
Eric, let's talk about, I'm a former offensive lineman, and when I was looking and doing research on this on this team, FIU, I'm like, hey, man, these guys up front are doing a heck of a job. In fact, they led the Conference USA in sacks allowed. They're doing a great job. Talk to us about this Maryland transfer, Max Bortenschlager. What does he bring to the table? Is this guy, what do you see on film for him? What does he bring to the table?
All right, first things first. As someone who covers this team, I've already had an anxiety attack knowing that I'm going to spell this name in my game stories. I believe the pronunciation is Bortenschlager. I believe that's the pronunciation.
Yeah, I think I heard about him.
But I already have it like in the Word document. Don't give me the red squiggly line so it recognizes that name. But to get to your point about the offensive line, they have had a phenomenal offensive line. The offensive line coach was Alan Mogridge, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in all of FBS football. He was there the past 2 years. Now he's moved on to South Florida. Taking his spot is Joel Rodriguez, who ironically was a player at the University of Miami who Butch Davis recruited. A lot of talent on the offensive line. Guys like D'Anthony Demery, who's a 6'6", 290-pound former University of Georgia player, ended up at FIU. So he's got that P5 potential. Another guy, Shane Magoo, is the brother of former quarterback Alex Magoo and Sione Finau, kid out of Texas. But to get to your point about Bortenschlager, what FIU really likes in quarterbacks, and this is the kind of, whether it's been you've talked to Butch Davis or you talk to offensive coordinator Rich Guskey or just anyone around the program, they really like quarterbacks with 3 things. A, they're comfortable in their own skin. B, they come in and they assert themselves as leaders within the program. And C, smart guys. And Bortenschlager fits the mold of James Morgan, a guy who at Bowling Green didn't have a ton of success, comes down to FIU, fits this offense like a glove, and it works. With Bortenschlager, he had 4 offensive coordinators in 3 years at Maryland. So as a former offensive player, that's just not going to get the job done. But the guy was an all Big Ten academic performer 3 straight years. So he has that kind of academic pedigree that Butch Davis and offensive coordinator Rich Guskey look for. Not quite the arm talent of Morgan, but definitely seems to have the smarts and just the ability to guide the offense.
Yeah, Max actually, like Butch, like I say about Butch Davis, my brother's a big Miami Hurricane fan, and Butch Davis was turns programs around. Like when he was in Miami, Miami was struggling, and then they bring in he gets fired. He goes not fired, but he goes off to Cleveland to play the Browns job, and then here comes Larry Coker, who comes in with Butch Davis recruits, and even Butch Davis recruited Dorsey, who was the quarterback that won the national championship game, and then he's off to go to North Carolina, and he turns North Carolina around with some of the stuff they have, brings in Larry Fedora. Larry Fedora brought him to the championship game in the ACC. He knows how to change programs and make them better before it's time for him to move to somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the funny thing about that is, and Coach Davis, I don't give him a hard time, but he doesn't necessarily appreciate when I ask him this about his age. Coach Davis is 69, so we know this is the last stop, more or less, right? I mean, unless something crazy happens and Nick Saban retires from Alabama and they offer him that job, this is the last stop. So he's not going anywhere. But to your point, Anywhere he goes, he increases the talent level, and the same thing can be said at FIU. To give you once again an example, talking about the bowl games, the fact that the program has never gone to 3 straight bowl games up until this year, they've had their best recruiting classes in program history back to back to back under Coach Davis. So it just goes to show that anywhere he goes, the talent level increases. Now, will that manifest itself in wins this year? We'll see. I mean, by all accounts, the team did underachieve last year. You're talking about a team that put 2 DBs in the NFL, an NFL quarterback, 2 running backs in the NFL. So you would think by that measure, playing in Conference USA, that you'd win more than 6 games. So they'll have to turn that around this year, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Eric, when you look back, and I was looking at Coach Davis's record, 23-16, not fantastic, but again, the level of competition this team is competing. But what, in your estimation, would constitute? They're right there, if not, being very close to. It seems like every year they're so close to having the upset of the year for one reason or another. But what do you think this year catapults? Someone new under center. You got a good offensive line. Any change in strategy or calling the plays because that offensive line is your strength?
Well, really quick, you mentioned the 23-16, and that's almost a bit of a misnomer in the sense that, to give you an idea of how bad this program was, and I'm not mincing words by putting it that way, they only had 2 winning seasons in 15 years prior to him. So you got to put the 23-16 in perspective there. But to your question, as far as a change in strategy, it's tough. I think the Miami game really opened up some eyes because they showed, just on a sheer speed and talent level, that they have the guys on the perimeter to play. Now, obviously, you haven't played the game. You know this. One of the big differences between your Power 5 schools and maybe your non-Power 5 is in the interior, your defensive line, offensive line. Can those guys compete? That's going to be a work in progress. But they show that they can compete. So moving forward to this year in 2020, should we have a year, I'd expect to see a lot more up-tempo. Rich Guskey does not make any bones about his offense. He says, hey, I'm not looking to run 9,000 plays. So that's not going to change. But I think you'd expect to see more ways they can get the guys on the perimeter of the ball in space, as opposed to kind of that traditional kind of just, run and then throw on third down.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, like you said, like you have a Power 5 school against a non-Power 5 school. You see it every year in the beginning of the seasons. You got JMU taking on NC State, and JMU is playing with NC State pretty well into the 4th quarter, and they don't have the horses, to finish the job. It's basically what FIU is. They're trying to get the horses to finish against a Miami or a Florida State or a Gator, and try to also get into that talk around the state of Florida. Like, we have a good program here in Miami that used to, better than what the team in Coral Gables.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Former FIU linebacker Sage Lewis, he made no bones about it when I talked to him post game. He said, "Hey, we're the real University of Miami. They're the University of Coral Gables." So, and that one certainly caused some controversy among the South Floridians down here. That caused some controversy. But absolutely, if you just look at this team from a shared talent perspective, they bring in a guy like Jeremiah Holdeman, who just, to talk about him for a second. This kid 2 years ago was a wide receiver at University of Georgia, started 5 games. He was making one-handed catches against UF in the Florida-Georgia game for fun. So to get a talent like him to FIU and play in CUSA, that's going to be huge. They got a transfer, Tyson Maeva from Boise State, who started 3 years there, ended up leaving Boise State under, kind of some cloudy circumstances, ended up at FIU, redshirted last year. He'll play. So they're going to have that P5 talent. They're going to have the guys at middle linebacker, at wide receiver. They have a P5 talent in terms of Malik Williams, the running back, transfer from the University of Arkansas. Alexis Jean-Baptiste, defensive end, transfer from the University of Arkansas. So if they've got the P5 talent on the field now, it's just a matter about putting it all together and winning games.
Eric, who's taking the first snap? We mentioned Max, but Kalen Wiggins, dual threat, can run the football. Yeah. I read a piece saying, if he's in, he's just as effective on the ground. Who's taking snaps week 1?
The answer to that, and this isn't a cop-out, the answer to that is both he and Max Bortenschlager. And I'm gonna give you a reason why. All right, I won't just say it just because. Having covered this team, the first year I covered the team was 2018, and that was James Morgan's first year coming down from Bowling Green. For all intents and purposes, James was the starter, but he split snaps with Christian Alexander for the first 3 or 4 games. And then after the Miami game, I believe it was the Miami game in 2018, not last year, James took over and was the starter the entire time. It wouldn't shock me if Butch does that again, just to see that Ken Max, especially given, I mean, you know this having played, when you take out all of spring practice, you don't have only but so many reps to get the quarterbacks ready. So it wouldn't shock me to see that quarterback competition stretch into the season, but I absolutely expect that both guys will take snaps. My gut right now, without having seen any practices, I do believe that Borton Schlager will eventually win out.
Okay. Noted on the tape.
we'll play you like before the start of the season to see what really Butch is doing, you know.
Exactly.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. We put your Twitter handle on the bottom of the our little stroller line there. We don't have that run by ESPN, but everybody can follow you at Eric C. Henry, right? And you do all about FIU football, right?
Yeah, it's Eric C. Henry _, and I cover FIU and Conference USA for SB Nation, Underdog Dynasty.
By the way, Herbie, before you got on, he texted me and said that C was for cash money.
Hey, he's in South Florida.
It is South Florida. It's South Florida. You got to have a little bit of swag to you, all right? Yeah, that's how we do down here. So
instead of the BMW, you got to have the Lexus. You know, hey. All right. Have a good 4th of July. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you, Eric.
Likewise, fellas. Take care.
All right.
No problem. Anytime.
That was Eric Henry, who covers the FIU Panthers. Little program note coming up at 7:45. We have the former Duke basketball player who is currently the head coach at Howard University, Kenny Blakeney, will be joining us at 7:45. He used to play with Duke there at Uski back in 91, 92, part of the good old days of Duke. Yeah, where Coach K and Bobby Hurley and all those people. So
hey, here's a newsflash: 91, 92, they were the good old days for a lot more than just Duke.
It was the good old days. It was like they 1 year they got steamrolled by UNLV, and then they turn around next year and they beat them. Yeah, so that was
yeah.
So anyway, folks, thanks for joining us this evening. We'll be on. We're going to take a week off next week because of I'm going to go on vacation, with my dad and help him out with some stuff, and we'll be back on a week later, and we'll get ourselves. Hopefully, we'll get some more information what's going on with college football. Maybe we could get some more information and see what's going on. Uskie, there's no ACC Media Day this year. They're going to do it by video.
Oh man, that's so tough. I'm wondering, can you come down here and we can do it on video together here? Or
here, I was thinking about doing a whole full 2 days, a full week of shows. Yeah, from here, you be down here, and you and I could just tap into the ACC thing and see what's going on.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, we'll do a morning show and an evening show, for 2 hours.
That sounds great, Herbie. Yeah, that sounds like a winner. So where are you headed again for vacation?
Going down to Harrisonburg, Virginia, where James Madison University is. We have my parents have a place down there. We're just going down. I'm going down there to help out my dad. So
nice.
Yeah, get away for a little week and then come back and get ready for the stretch run. Yeah,
absolutely. I know every week I'm kind of like not on pins and needles, but I'm anxious to hear if we're going to start the season on time. But something tells me we're not going to know until end of July. Maybe first August.
Well, they got rid of the Hall of Fame game in the NFL, so that's the first sign of it. That might be it. But they moved everything. Everybody doesn't start camp until end of July anyway.
Right.
So we'll see what's going on. But we know this guy is the voice of the New Mexico State Aggies. The Aggies last year, not a good year. 2-10. They're in independent ball. They play with an independent league with Liberty, Notre Dame, Army. UMass is actually an independent right now. So let's bring in Jack Nixon with us. Jack, thanks for joining us. Hello, welcome from Baltimore. How's the weather where you are? Is he here?
Hi.
Hi, Jack. How's everything going?
I wonder if well, it's going fine. I wonder. I've done this, so I apologize if I'm not sure how to sync up with this.
Oh, you're
I
doing a
want to say
good
a couple
job.
things started. And I'll answer your questions.
Yeah.
First of all, you're a Redskin fan, I see.
No,
You worked
no,
1 year
not.
with Doug Williams in the United States Football
Florida
League,
State.
Oklahoma Outlaw.
Yeah, everybody asks me that all the
Super
time.
guy.
No. Yeah, not in this household. Yeah, we got a lot of Ravens fans around here, so yeah, I'll be steamrolled real bad. Anyway,
Well,
let's talk about
Scott,
the Aggies last year. Tough season, 2-10. What are they going to do this year to get better? Yeah, to get back into a bowl game because they haven't been in a bowl game in like a couple of years.
what do the Aggies have to do to improve?
Yeah, how they,
Well,
they have to
they
improve.
have to have better line.
Better linemen.
I really have a hard time hearing you. How can the Aggies improve? I guess I'm going to go with that. And if that's not the question, ask me after I'm done with the answer, and I'll try to get you the right answer. They have to have offensive line play. That was a problem last year. Players get hurt. The thing that I'm sorry, I'm kind of off center, aren't I? The thing that the Aggies have to battle being an independent is depth, or a lack of depth. And so when the players we get on the front, they're not bad players. If they get hurt, then the second line is just not going to be as good as Maryland or Nevada or Texas or someplace like that. And so that's where the Aggies really get into a bind in football. Offensive line has to stay solid. We have to develop a couple receivers and find a running back. We've got a good transfer, young man who came from Michigan named Omori Samuels, who is from a town just south of Albuquerque. And the hope is that he can come through and play. That's where the Aggies have to improve. And if that wasn't your question, ask me again, and I'll try to listen more carefully.
Hey, yeah, Jack, that was his question. But listen, before we get back into football, I'm a big sci-fi guy. You got any friends in Roswell? I need to look around there. Jack, can you hear me?
Jack, can you hear us?
Okay.
What was this?
I'm sorry, you're cutting.
Yeah.
It's a press out.
Yeah, we're having some.
Talk a little bit about Jason Huntley and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties with Jack. So, Jack, can you log back out and log back in and see how
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, just log back in and log back out, and we'll see how we do. So, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, like I said, log back in and let's try it again. Okay. Where did Uskie go? There you go. Uskie, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Jack, we'll give you a call later, okay?
Maybe just shoot him a text message and we can interview him.
Oh, set something this weekend.
Okay.
All right, Jack, we'll give you a call soon, okay? Yeah, I don't understand what happened there. A little technical difficulties, when you have live shows, that's what happens. So hopefully Jack will log back in. We'll get him back in. We'll see how he goes. Yeah, that just happens, folks. With live TV, you got internet, you got things going on. Don't shock it anyway.
Yeah.
So Uskie, we were just talking about New Mexico State. They were 2-10, and Jack was having a hard time understanding what we were saying to him, what they have to improve. And I think he said to us he needs the defense to get better, and other things to get themselves back to a bowl game.
Yeah, you mentioned, the offensive line, which is, and then the lack of depth. The biggest disparity in my view, well, not maybe the size, athleticism of big name programs, but it's also the depth.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to recruit. You got to get more players. And if it's okay if you go to a school that doesn't have the funds to do it, but you got to get the horses to play against. Because look at their schedule. I got their schedule in front of me here. They got to go to UCLA to face the Trojans the first game of the year on August 29th. And then they got to go to Alabama or Birmingham. And then they got home games against Akron, New Mexico, like a rivalry game against New Mexico. And then they got to go to Hawaii. And they got the Gators at the end of the year on November 21st. So they got to get, that's a tough schedule for an independent.
Yeah, really tough. So, hey, Herb, while we have a few minutes, even though they're not going to have the ACC Media Day, are you still coming down?
I'm probably going to stay here, but I'm going to save it and come down for, and probably you and I will do a game together.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the plan. We'll do
okay.
Yeah, we'll do the Wake Forest Notre Dame thing because I know they're playing there at Charlotte this year, Wake Forest against Notre Dame. Maybe we could do that game. We'll definitely.
It's so disappointing breaking that streak we have. This streak would ever be broke,
I know.
Like Maggio's hit streak,
I know, but hey, I'm looking forward to next year. And if we could beat folks, we're still going to do a show from here. I'll be in Baltimore, and Uskie will be there, and down there in Charlotte, and we're still going to be doing the show during the week. They start on the 21st of July, and we'll get more information from the folks here at the ACC. And plus, on top of that, dude, we got other Big 12 and ACC, and I got other links that we could do, and we can enjoy ourselves from our fine confine of our home, and we don't have to go anywhere.
Oh, it's going to be awesome, but I'm going to miss that food over at the West End, man.
No, I'll get Nicole. Hey, I'll get Nicole to make that food, and I'll have her bring it in.
Oh, it's messed up, man. Oh, goodness, man. Well, I'm looking forward to your little getaway next week. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to get out of town for a week. Go down to Virginia, see what's going on down there. I went down there for a day or so, and brought my mom home a month ago from down there. But down there they're pretty wide open for business. They have things during phase 4, and it's going to be a whole different environment down there. And see what they do with the masks and all that stuff. And I think if you want to have college football, I think you got to wear a mask. Outside. That's the I saw Mac Brown had his picture out this week. Somebody said mask or no football.
Wow.
So, I was like, wow. I was like, we'll definitely do that.
Here in North Carolina, 2 days ago, Governor Cooper, put the mask rule into effect anytime you go into businesses, grocery stores, that have you. So not a big fan of the masks, but, whatever the law is, I'll adhere to it, pal.
Exactly.
Coming up at 7:45, Herbie.
We got the head coach of Howard University, Kenny Blakeney, who the reason why we have him on because we're going to have our first coach live on our show here. And secondly, we're going to talk to him because he's doing a big game on Martin Luther King birthday next year on January 2021 when the Irish and Mike Bray are going to come to D.C. to play Howard University.
That's big. And Howard's coming up. They're more competitive. And looks like they got some players that could perhaps make some noise. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Coach Blakeney about this. Yeah.
So, and he's a former Duke University standout. He spent some time with Mike Bray at Delaware and, all over the country as assistant coach. And, he's in the second year there in Howard, but he's going to turn, hopefully, that program around because they play in a really tough MEAC conference. But in the MEAC, you really don't have, you got Morgan State, Coppin State, and you got somebody else there too. But, I feel like, if Howard could pull it off, they could get a berth in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, it's I would say it's let's see what he can do for an encore in in his second season. But Herbie, switching gears back to the ACC Media Day, I'm assuming that it's probably every conference is going to go the same. Did they tell you about the layout or how they're going to do those interviews, or is it just in the preliminary works right now? They're still working on. I got an email last week or 2 weeks ago when you were on vacation saying that they're going to be doing the same days, the 21st and 22nd July, but it'll be virtual. They'll give us a sign, when to meet the player or whatever. It's going to be on Zoom, pretty much. and then we'll see what we could do, and maybe we could hook up some coaches by ourselves and check in. And that's why we're going to try to do a morning show, because we could actually see what's going on, what's the day's topic at all these other media days, like Big 12, with Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy and his players still. I don't know if that's still going on, but that was a big thing a couple weeks ago. And what's going on in the AAC and the American and the SEC with what's going on. So it's going to be fun. We're going to try to tune in to do a morning show and see how it works.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I got to tell you, everywhere I go in Charlotte, they say, "Where's Chris Heidel? Where's Herbie at? Is he going to come down?" I can't leave my house without people asking about it. You're world renowned down here, buddy.
Wow.
So,
I appreciate that.
I'm really excited to and I know I kind of have to reel it in a little bit, but goodness, Herb, we need football.
Oh yeah, we do.
So bad, we just, if the country can be, I mean, it's great that the other sports, hockey and basketball, but no, everybody knows there's nothing like football to bring a country together. Let's face it, Herbie.
All right. Yeah, I agree. There's no way. And like I said to Nicole today, if my girlfriend, if we don't have football, it's understandable. But please do not destroy it. Please do not please do not take off bowling off TV.
Oh my.
I'll be in the closet, not coming out until 2021.
Oh my goodness. So what is it next time you're gonna, do you have so you think the Wake Forest game, what month is that in, Herbie? You got to come down
here. I got my trusty.
I don't know how many more excuses I can give the harem down here, Herbie.
Yeah. Let's see here. Georgia Tech, Duke. The Wake Forest Notre Dame game is September 26th.
Okay. All right. That's cool. All right. I think I can hold off the cronies until then.
Hey, I can come down the week before that because they're taking on Villanova. Demon Deacons are. So I could do Villanova, maybe Notre Dame, in the same week. So
that would be insane.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And Villanova does we do a little CAA stuff up here myself because it's just around the corner. But they have a good program. Villanova. They're a better program in football and basketball than football. But I don't want to have anybody from Villanova give me emails and say you're denied. But they do a good job in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I wonder how. Herbie, I wonder how the press box is going to work. And what I really enjoy every year, of course, the food, the West and you coming down, but I enjoy getting the college football programs. And I hope that we have, I guess they'll maybe online PDF style, Herbie.
Yeah, they're going to send us a link that we could download them. And speaking of media things, I got an email from the Red Sox today. They came up with the Major League Baseball came up with guidelines. They're only going to have 35 media members per game.
Okay.
And there's no interaction with anybody. You got to do it on Zoom and video chat.
Wow. So even post game, huh?
Yeah, you'll be in your seat in your in the press box, and you can ask Coach, whoever, your team, and a question, and no interaction with them. And also on top of that, they just come to the ballpark and back home. They're not taking a shower at the stadium. It's like Little League, you used to go home, take a shower, Can you see Pedro, the polar bear driving his uniform, through the Bell Parkway with his uniform on? That would be hilarious. That big man.
Oh my goodness, man, it's crazy. Hey, make sure you reach out to our guy. Hopefully, we can get him on.
We'll get him when we get back. Yeah.
The New Mexico
people we will get on. We have the coach of Howard University just logged into us, Coach Kenny Blakeney. I hope I'm saying your coach. I hope I'm saying your last name correctly.
Perfect.
All right, cool. Because I've been working on it all day today, and I told my brother you're a former Duke Blue Devil, and he goes, "You better not make fun of his last. Don't butcher his last name. Okay, do not do that."
It is all good. It is all good. Thanks for having me, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing, Coach?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
That's great. Cool. I was doing some research on you, and I figured out you played at Duke, but you also played basketball at Damascus High School, and that they had a tragedy this year. The head coach passed away, Coach Wooten. What did you learn from him, growing up as a young man playing basketball in D.C.?
Well, I was very lucky and fortunate to play for Coach Wooten, first and foremost. What a loving, gentle, understanding, compassionate man, teacher, leader, coach. I think some of the things I just kind of listed are things that I learned from him. Coach Wooten is definitely a guy that leads. He's an educator. He's a guy that can really communicate with all different crosses of life. He's a guy that is going to be the smartest guy in the room. It just was an incredible experience for me to have him as a guy from the ages of 14 to 17 to be a mentor, a coach, and a teacher in my life. So I was very fortunate and lucky to play for Coach Morgan Wooten.
Well, Coach, you certainly have your program going in the right direction. I saw some tape on Charles Williams. Tremendous year, averaged 18.5 points, second team all MEAC. What does he bring to the table? What are the things that he needs to work on to take his game and perhaps your program to the next level?
Yeah, well Charles, he goes by CJ. He's Charles Jr., and he just completed his eligibility with us. And during his 4-year run, I was fortunate enough to coach him for 1 year. I joke all the time, and I say I wish I had another year to coach him because I thought that his potential and his ceiling still had room to grow. He's at 6'5", 6'6", 44-inch vertical, sweet touch on his jump shot, very, very efficient kind of score. It was just a real joy for me to be a part of his run this year, watching him accomplish becoming the all-time leading scorer at Howard and then the all-time leading scorer in MEAC history. So I'm very, very happy I had a chance to work with him at least for a year and, wish him the best in his future endeavors pursuing a pro contract.
Oh, Coach Kenny, I got to get my research department fired on that, man. Come on, are you kidding me? Come on, I appreciate you mulling that over, pal. We're running on fumes here in Charlotte. But when you look at this team, Coach, we've been around the game so long, and from what we hear from coaches is that it's great to have young, enthusiastic players who are just coming in, but also mesh that with veteran leadership, guys that have been in the program. What does your team and the cohesiveness look like on that stage?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, when I took over the job, one of the things we did is I think we had 7 scholarships or 6 scholarships that first year. And, it was a couple different ways that I could look at it. And, very fortunate for me, we have a tremendous leadership with our president, Dr. Wayne Frederick, and also tremendous leadership with our AD, Mr. Kerry Davis. And both of those guys, when we were in discussions, really emphasized how they wanted to build a program of kids that were, academic-minded kids. Our requirement for our student athletes, at least for me in the basketball department, is a minimum 3.0 and 1,000.
Wow.
So we have young men in our program that are, have gone to, outstanding programs, outstanding schools. Their parents really value and care about the education. So for us, it was a big deal to kind of start from scratch. And what that meant is bringing kids in, taking a look at redshirting some young men because at Howard, because of the credit situations, when young men transfer in, they lose typically a lot of credits. So with our league, and you guys are familiar with the MEAC is a league that's a little bit older. It's a little bit tougher. It's a strong physical league. So how do we get older without bringing in, transfers or young men from JUCO? So we looked at redshirting 1 or 2 guys every year. We redshirted 2 last year. I'll redshirt 2 this year, and we'll try to build that stability from the ground floor up. We have 3 young men that are in our program from the last regime. They're finishing up their seniors, but we've now taken the other 3 classes, that junior, sophomore, and freshman class, and have kind of pieced it together a little bit with some freshmen. We were very fortunate enough to be able to find some transfers that could transfer in and not lose credit. We took one young man from a JUCO, so it's a blend that we really needed. But I think the foundation of our program are going to be our freshman and sophomore kids, which, as we're building this thing, they're the future. Now, those older kids that are in the program and kids that we brought in, young men that we brought in, it's very important for them because they're going to provide us with some leadership, some maturity, and some stability, being older guys. We're going to lean heavily on all of our kids, and I think we have a great balance of youth and experience now, and just how does that mix? We'll find out once this COVID period kind of subsides a little bit and we can get in the gym.
Exactly. Well, Coach Kenny, I need to ask you a question. I know you went to school with Duke. We talked about that at the beginning. What was it like watching a Coach K from the sidelines? I know you were a role player with all those great players in 91 and 92. What did you learn from being, on the sideline with Coach K and also Mike Bray, who was there as well?
Yeah, well, we had Coach K, we had Mike Bray, we had Tommy Amaker, who's now at Harvard. We had Jay Billis at a 2-year stint, who's the face of ESPN basketball. Quinn Snyder, we had him for 2 years while I was there. So we were very fortunate and lucky enough to have some incredible coaches. And one that I missed that is, I think a big part of Duke history that doesn't get remembered as much is Pete Gaudette. So we really had a great group of coaches, and I think Coach K being the leader of those guys really set the tone every day. Coach is really competitive. I see your Florida State and the U stuff in the back, so I'm pretty sure you follow the conference a little bit.
Yes, we do.
He's a very, very competitive guy. He's going to be the most prepared guy. He's going to be the most well-read guy. He's an effective communicator. He has a ability to understand what his players feel and what they need, and does an amazing job with taking care of those. I think in those taking care of those things that go unnoticed. So playing for him, man, was a unique and special opportunity. I pinch myself all the time, and how lucky am I that I got a chance to play for Morgan Wooten, who's the winningest coach in the history of high school basketball when he retired. He's in the Hall of Fame. You look at the same thing with Coach K, like the winningest coach in college basketball, Hall of Famer, U.S. Olympic coach. I tell people all the time, it's a little bit like I'm like Forrest Gump. I've just found myself in the middle of some incredible situations, luckily, and have had a great opportunity to really learn from a lot of terrific coaches and teachers.
Wow, Coach, just I wanted to ask you, it's so hard because you come from obviously the background, the pedigree's there. But when I talk to coaches, I'm like, well, you have this plan in place, and then all of a sudden, maybe your talent doesn't fit that plan year to year, or kids grow up, or maybe they improve, or in some cases, maybe they, how do you integrate what you've learned and then integrate that with the talent that you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I grew up in, fundamentally sound kind of like structured program from my time at the Boys and Girls Club in Washington D.C. number 8 Boys and Girls Club, my time spent at Remote Recreation Center, my time at DeMatha, my time at Duke, and then the coaches that I've been lucky and fortunate enough to learn from: Coach Lefty Griselle, Tommy Amaker, Mike Britton, Jay Billis, all of those guys. And as I become a head coach, I start to learn a little bit more about 4 years ago about analytics and how that plays a part in the game. So, my foundation and background, and especially on defense, is all man-to-man, right?
Oh, you love it.
Yeah. We played 99% zone this year. So to answer your question, sometimes the personnel dictates things, as you mentioned, and then sometimes the data dictates things. So we really looked at for us as a program, and especially being in the MEAC and some of the teams that we play, we really looked at, we need to become a really good zone team and see if teams can beat us from the 3-point line. The numbers, kind of say that it's going to be a challenge, but we have to do a good job defensively also to prevent them from achieving their average or exceeding their average. So that's one instance right there. I put in a continuity offense this year. Like, never ever have done anything outside of motion or set plays. And so those kind of things, take precedent once you see your personnel and their capabilities and the things that they can bring to the table.
Awesome. Wow.
Well, Coach Kenny, I have a question to ask you. When you were back to Coach K, were you intimidated by him when you first met him? Because I got intimidated by him on a teleconference call. I was asking him a question a year ago, and he was like, he gets on and goes, "What's your question?" I'm like, I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything dumb. And I'm like, "Coach, talk about your reserve players." And I had the audio and I played it for my brother. My brother goes, "You just completely destroyed that entire teleconference call. You were scared off your mind." I was like, "It's Coach K. You don't want to say anything stupid. He'll ring you out like Roy Williams does."
I understand, and that's the cool part about Coach K. He's just a normal dude, right? He's a guy that likes to make fun of people. He's a guy that likes to joke around. He's got a really interesting sense of humor. He's just a normal dude. He's got good days and he's got bad days. But at the end of the day, he's been the most consistent figure in sports for the last 40 years. And so I think he's such a Coach asks for a couple things. He wants you to play hard and not make mistakes or limit your mistakes. And I think that's kind of, if you can stay in those kind of parameters with him, you can have a lot of fun and a lot of success there.
Exactly. Well, Coach Kenny Blakeney, who is the head coach of Howard University, they have a big game coming up on Martin Luther King Halloween next January against Notre Dame. That's going to be a big game down there in Howard University. I think that's probably going to be broadcast on ESPN. Maybe Jay Bills will stop by and do the game or something like that. And but I want to wish you and your family a wonderful 4th of July, and hopefully everything gets better, and we'll see that sports and we'll get back up and running. We'll get some sports running here.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. It's fun.
Yeah, Coach. We'll get you on another time. Have a great day. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.
Bye-bye.
Coach.
Bye-bye. That's Coach Kenny Blakeney, the head coach of head coach of Howard University. Big former Duke player and all that stuff. Folks, thanks for joining us in tonight. We got a full show here. It's getting up to the top of the hour. Hopefully we'll get some people on for in 2 weeks. We'll be back on the air in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks we'll be back on July 15th. We'll be back on, getting ourselves ready for some good good programs here.
Absolutely. Who do we got?
Get his
8 o'clock, Herbie.
Twitter handle. Forgot to get the coach's Twitter handle there, but we'll get him. Well, we got Jordan Guskey, who covers Ball State University. The only, if you think of Ball State University, Euan, who's the one famous guy that came out of Ball State University?
Oh my gosh! How did I know you were going to go there? Oh, football or basketball or celebrity?
No, this guy was late. First, he started as a weather guy. Then he went out to California, and then became a comedian. And he had a late night show on NBC and CBS.
What, David Letterman? Yes, it is Letterman. It is Letterman. Yeah.
Letterman.
I knew I was going to bounce back from that horrible question I asked Coach Blakeney. Yes. Fire
our stat department.
You're fired.
Yeah, we got to fire our stat department because we gave out a wrong stat to the coach. That's okay.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Yeah, we got Jordan Guskey, who covers Ball State University and the Cardinals. So, Jordan, thanks for coming on. How's life in in Indiana. I know Indiana's flat, and you really don't have anything else to do. But how's everything going there?
Well, it's still flat, I guess, for the
It
most.
is flat. It is flat. I went there for South Bend, and my buddy and I are going, "Where's the hills?" And he goes, "It's just completely flat."
I mean, we got some of those here. Maybe not.
Yeah,
bad.
it's the salt dunes, right? The salt dunes. That's your hills, right?
Maybe. But yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, it seems like Indiana's done pretty well during this whole pandemic, as opposed to some other states. So that's been good to see, and hopefully that stays up. But yeah, I think everyone's just ready to get back, ready for sports hopefully to come back, and just waiting for that to hopefully come down the pike here.
Hey, Jordan, a big upcoming season. You got a freshman who played his quarterback ball down the street, Donovan Marcus. What does he bring to the table, and what are expectations for him this year?
Yeah, Donnie from Brownsburg, I believe. Yeah, it's obviously from what people were able to see of Walter Fletcher last year, the grad transfer who came out of it at Edinburgh, who obviously wasn't a D1 school, but he grad transfers up to the D1 level and did a great job as a sort of second back with Caleb Huntley, who's back for his senior year. I think from my conversations with Coach Mike New, offensive coordinator now, Kevin Lynch, and others, they're expecting a lot of the same in terms of what Walter was able to provide in terms of that speed, that sort of different pace back from Caleb. So obviously it's different. It does help him that he was able to be in the spring a bit. Obviously they weren't able to have spring practice because of the pandemic, but he was able to come to campus and get that start. So he's not as off to a different start as maybe some freshmen would be, considering voluntary workouts haven't been able to start as they would have otherwise. But I think best case scenario for this Ball State team is he has the kind of season that Walter had, or at least whatever a freshman equivalent of that would be. I think that's the sort of mold that they see him in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you were just talking about Justin Hall, the senior wide receiver. What type of player is he? What kind of is he going to be that good this year to get maybe some NFL scouts to take a look at him?
Yeah, I think he's up there. I mean, him, Caleb Huntley, maybe Drew Plitt, not as much as those two guys. Maybe Jalen Thomas on the other side of the ball, linebacker, Bryce Cosby, a safety, Antonio Phillips, a cornerback, but definitely Justin Hall. I mean, he's fast. He's a fast guy. He can make plays out in space, sort of like Malik Dunner did in spots for him this past season. Yeah, Justin Hall's a guy who I would be surprised if he's not drafted, if he doesn't get a look in a camp in some fashion. I think he's definitely a really talented guy. He's going to be probably their number one receiver this upcoming season.
Hey, Jordan, you mentioned head coach Mike New entering his fifth season. It seems like Ball State, they can compete. They got some players. They have some talent. I don't know how it hasn't. Obviously, it's it's tough when now with COVID, with recruiting and getting continuity. But is this the years that Ball State can have a winning season? They haven't had a winning season since 2013. Give me some reason for optimism in Muncie.
Yeah, I think the big thing that people are looking at is that this past season maybe really could have been that season. Just considering, they had a huge lead on Central Michigan and they blew that lead, a game that they should have won and they didn't. Western Michigan, another game where they led late, weren't able to pull it out. Ohio, they kind of just, in some ways, just didn't have the game they were supposed to. There are games you can look at this past season in 2019 where this team, it feels like, and you talk to anyone on that team who's back, they feel like they should have been in Detroit for that MAC championship game. They felt like they should have been in a bowl game. They know they left a lot on the plate there this past season, and they have a lot back, whether it's on offense. Defense, they lost some more than they did on offense, but there's still a lot of production back from this team, a lot of starters back. So just based on how close they were in 2019 and what they have back for 2020, should the season happen, there's just a lot of optimism for what they have and what they're possibly going to be able to do. I think that's the biggest thing, is just how close they were in 2019 and what they brought back to 2020 from that team. Yeah.
Jordan, I was looking at their schedule. They got to open up against Maine, and we covered the CAA here, and Maine is 2 years removed from winning the CAA championship game, and they went really throughout the playoffs a couple of years ago, and then you got to go to the Big House in Ann Arbor to take on a a whole ball squad that doesn't even know what their quarterback is, and then then you're at a home game, technically a home game in Indiana against the Hoosiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to have to worry about Ball State overlooking Maine at all, considering this past season when they played Fordham, who obviously I think, if you just looked at Ball State's schedule last season, you would think, okay, Fordham, that's an easy W. And it ended up being an easy W. But at the start of that game, it didn't start off well. So whether or not they were overlooking Fordham, I think that can tell you they're not going to overlook Maine in any sense, and that they're going to look at that and be ready for that game. I think, yeah, definitely playing Michigan and IU. It's a tough, couple games there for them, but they had their chances against IU this past season. Obviously, IU brings back Michael Penix from injury. He'll be a year older, a year more experienced. IU's a very talented team, obviously, as is Michigan. So, obviously they won't be favored in those games. But I think Ball State, if you talk to anyone on the team, they're pointing back to, hey, we were close against IU this past season, had chances, close against Notre Dame not too long ago, and had their chances against Notre Dame as well. So, yeah, they got to know, by no means is that an easy schedule, but they have their confidence in themselves, and they'll feel that right up until kickoff.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Jordan, tell me about Caleb Huntley. This guy, Mid-American Conference, second leading rusher, almost 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. This guy can do it all. And I'm surprised that he doesn't get more national recognition, to be honest with you. Some of it has to do with, the conference, the competition. But where do you see his greatest strengths being, and can he elevate this team to win some of those games that they lost last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously when people look at Caleb Huntley, they're going to look at his size and his ability to run between the tackles. But I feel like in some ways, from what I've watched from him, I feel like one of his greatest strengths is really just his breakaway speed. There's some games where, he got in space, and then, you would think that a DB, a safety, a cornerback would be able to catch up to him, but he just kept pulling away. So I think he's deceptively fast in some ways. I think he's a very fast back. I think you're right. Maybe some of the national attention doesn't come because it's an American Conference, and that's not a Power 5 conference. Ball State, as we talked about, hasn't had the best record in recent years, so maybe doesn't get the same sort of eyes that it would have if it would have had the same year that a Central Michigan did last year or Miami, Ohio did last year. So I think, yeah, those are definitely some reasons why he doesn't have maybe that same sort of attention, but I think he'll definitely get it over the course of this upcoming season if he continues to do what he did last season, because he is, a potential NFL back. He's someone who definitely has that desire in him. He talks about that, all the time. He talked about that in high school all the time. So yeah, he's definitely going for that goal. And I think if he has the size, he has the speed, he has the stats as we mentioned, especially his freshman year. He ran for over 1,000 yards his freshman year, which not a whole lot of Ball State backs have ever done. And he's just continued to have that when he's healthy. And so I think that's just going to continue for him this upcoming season, should he remain healthy.
Yeah. Let's talk about the MEAC. The MEAC conference every year has different surprising teams. I know you guys go to Detroit, and the winner goes to Detroit, and they play in a bowl game, the Quick Loan Bowl. I think one team played against an ACC squad. Is there any sleepers in this MEAC conference that might get, when people here in the East might go, oh, we may want to take a look at this team, because this might be a team that, an ACC squad might be playing in a bowl game?
You mean the MEAC or the MAC?
The MAC. Sorry, the MAC. I'm talking. We had basketball on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I think Miami, Ohio is a team that people should be watching out for. Obviously they won the MAC title last year, so it doesn't seem like the toughest pick to make. But they had I believe a freshman quarterback. Basically, their leading rusher, their leading receivers back as well. So that's a team that's bringing back a lot of its weapons that surprised, I think, a lot of people considering how young it was this past season. And obviously Central Michigan, who I believe, if I remember right, obviously they made the MAC championship game last year, but if I remember right, only one coach picked them to win their division last year. And I think, if I remember right, I was on some other radio show, and the host was laughing about it because he thought that was so ridiculous that Central Michigan would be picked. And I did in some ways as well. And then they went and had the season they did. And so that's obviously a team that's going to be back this season. So I think those are two teams in my mind that are going to be teams that people should watch out for. I would say Western Michigan, but they don't have Levante Bellamy back. He's off in the NFL now, I believe, with the Broncos. So I would have put Western Michigan in that mix if he was back. But I think, that's a lot to replace. And that guy, he was great. Obviously, Ohio lost their quarterback as well. I think he's in the CFL now, Nathan O'Rourke. So I think I would have included those two teams if they're back. But I think Central Michigan and Miami, Ohio are the two teams that, outside of Ball State, because I think Ball State should be in that mix. Outside of Ball State, those are the two teams that I personally would look out for.
That's true. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I hope you and your family have a great 4th of July. Hopefully there is some 4th of July fireworks where you are. And I know around the country everybody's banning them because of the COVID and all that stuff. But hopefully you guys have some a good weekend with 4th of July. And football will be here as soon as we can.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, hope you guys stay safe too.
Thanks, Jordan, for coming. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks, Jordan. That's Jordan Guskey, who covers the Ball State Cardinals and the Mid-Atlantic. What is it they call that conference? Let me get the right conference name here. The MAC. Yeah, the Mid-American Conference.
Yes.
Yeah, I got conferences. You know, it's a conference here, conference there.
Oh, Herbie, we're going right through it, man. It's a great insight from all of our guests tonight. You know, fantastic.
I forgot to get Twitter's Jordan's Twitter handle. It's at Jordan Guskey, who you can cover all Ball State football as well. So thanks for Jordan for coming on. We're on for another at 8:15 tonight. We have the beat writer for Liberty Flames down there in Lynchburg College, where my father and my mother went to Lynchburg University, not Liberty.
Be biased during the interview, all right, Herb. We can't let you go at any Lynchburg games. So get tossed.
What is Lynchburg University? I think my dad's watching. Lynchburg is the Fighting Hornets. I'm like,
oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Yeah.
Wait a second. We had Fighting Hornets. Like, I think we had. What were they? Fighting Hornets that we had, or like poisonous hornets that were let out at some point the last couple. Some kind of report, anyway.
My dad was talking about the story about a little tidbit about Liberty University. That's Jerry Caldwell, the guy Falwell, who did the preacher who started the university, and and my dad said, there was some good food down 27 down there in Virginia. It's only like 30 minutes from where I'm going to be next weekend. So maybe my dad and I could go down and get some good grease for the dinner for dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually looked into going to Liberty. When I was a junior, senior in high school, and opted to go to Springfield College and then transfer to UConn. But it was great to have a myriad of guests and from different backgrounds. And we do it all here on Herb FM. We do NHL, college football, college basketball. We'll do anything.
We'll get baseball involved when we get back here July 15th. We'll check in with some baseball teams like the Mets, Orioles, Phillies, whoever. We'll see how they're doing with spring training at their ballpark. They're right downtown, just trading at the stadium. And I think they should do that more often because that brings more fans. I know in February and March it's cold here, but if you push the baseball to like May and you have spring training here in Maryland, that's probably be better. And you can bring fans to watch their team practice instead of flying all the way down to Sarasota and spend all that cash. But I know they want to.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Herbie, it's I don't know what you mentioned a phrase earlier in the broadcast and the new normal, and I don't know what guest it was, but I think it was I'm not sure, but our guest said it really a lot of the success has to do with adapting to this new normal. Like who can adapt to it faster, who's kind of gotten all their ducks in a row, especially with new coaches coming into new teams. It's especially challenging for them.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with you. It's going to be hard. We'll see what organization is up to par. You got some of these schools like the SEC started June 6th. They've already been in for almost a month. And you got the ACC. You got what's going on in Clemson. 26 people affected by it. But here's the thing: they don't. I feel like to me, just get it over it now. They'll be fine when football seasons start. You just keep them. You just keep an eye on those people, and you'll be fine.
Absolutely, it's a whole nother kind of world we're living in. But whether it's fans in the stands. We need competition. We're dying for sports, and never in I don't know in history, as I think it certainly in my history, But we'll see what happens. And hey, Liberty's going in the right direction. This team can compete.
Yeah, they got a good coach in Hugh Freeze, who came from Ole Miss, and I talked to him last year, over the phone. Great religious man. He's he likes, he knows, he's really religious, and that's what Liberty University is.
Oh, well, it's just the fundamentals of
Yeah.
the Lord, and how they go about their business, and meanwhile, it's all about putting out productive, God-fearing citizens at Liberty. So, Hugh Freeze fits right in.
Right, exactly. Let's bring in Damien Sordelett. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Damien, am I saying it right or wrong?
It's Sordelett, but close enough. It's a French name, so it can kind of go either way.
Oh, I didn't know we were going international, Damien. Whoa, this guy's dropping French bombs on us, Herbie. What?
Yeah, if you add the E on it, you get the French heritage of mine from the French Huguenots. I haven't been to France yet to kind of trace back the heritage, but that's, people get the name wrong and all the time. So if you're close enough in the ballpark, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Hey, they get Heidel wrong. They call me Heidel, or I just tell them, look, it's Heidel. Just Heidelberg dropped the bird. And then they're like, huh? They still look at me like, with foreheads. I'm like, okay, whatever. So Damien, how's Lynchburg, Virginia tonight? Is it quiet? Everything good down there?
Yeah, it's very quiet. I live on the outskirts of Lynchburg, actually, kind of in a rural part and it's been very quiet out here. Not a lot going on. Liberty's football players have been back on campus for exactly a month now. They all reported, or most of them reported on June 1st. The entire roster with freshmen, and then the incoming transfers were in by June 15th. So they've been getting ready they've been doing voluntary workouts, and they're getting ready for that, walk through like scenario where you're going to get, extended time with the wait staff, in the film room, and with the coaching staff. So, they're gearing up for that. And so far, no positive test for any players. Right now, they've been just screening. And if anyone shows any symptoms or answers a question that may make someone feel they could be positive, then they go get tested. But in order to not spend an egregious amount of money early for a negative test, and then they end up being positive later, they've been going that route of screening just to, be physically responsible in a time when, there's not a lot of money to go around for these athletic departments to spend on hundreds upon hundreds of tests.
Yeah, exactly. Damien, I wanted to ask you about a transfer you got coming in from Georgia, CJ Daniels, the wide receiver. I mean, when I told my friend this, I'm like, hey, they got a great player from Georgia coming in. This guy's going to make plays. And my friend's like, wow, who goes to Georgia to Liberty? No disrespect, but it's one side of the college football, kind of hierarchy and landscape to a whole nother. What does he bring to the table for this offense?
This is an offense that you're going to see very familiar to what Hugh Freeze ran at Ole Miss. And last year, we'll say that he tailored the offense around Buckshot Calvert. He wasn't as mobile. It was more, pocket passer. Now you're going to see them running the ball quite a bit with Malik Willis at quarterback, and you'll see a lot more RPOs. Daniels is one of those transfer wide receivers, along with Javian Lofton, JUCO kid who they have really high aspirations for. They're going to come in and they're going to give a big play threat to Liberty. And to go back to your question about why would a guy go from Georgia to Liberty, it's Hugh Freeze. And you have a guy like him who's coached at Ole Miss. And he brings that wide receiver coach, Maurice Harris, who was a tight ends coach at Ole Miss, who notably worked with Evan Ingram. And we've seen what Ingram's been able to do at the next level. And you see what he did this past year with Antonio Gandy Golden and turning him from an unpolished gem into a 4th-round draft pick. He knows what he's doing. And that's what a lot of these kids see, that these guys can come in, work with them, and develop them for the next level. And being at Liberty, you can move up that depth chart very quickly because the FBS talent hasn't been built up yet. So if you're a guy who wants some playing time and you're going to play 3 ACC schools this year in Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and NC State, that's some good teams to play against, and it also gives you some exposure. And that's a reason why you would see guys make that step down from a P5 to a G5 independent because you had the opportunity to play immediately and you get exposure with some good Power 5 games.
Now let's talk about the ACC gauntlet you guys are doing this year. Opening up against Virginia Tech at Blacksburg, and then anybody goes to Blacksburg, it's hard to win there no matter what if you're Florida State, Miami, or whoever. And that's a week before Penn State comes to town down there in Blacksburg if we have a full season. And then you guys have to go to Syracuse after Syracuse came there last year, and I guess that was a parking nightmare down there with Syracuse rolling in because. Yeah, that was a lot of people there to watch the Syracuse Orangemen, the first Power 5 school to come down to Lynchburg, Virginia, and then you got to go to NC State by the end of the year. Where you don't know what NC State squad you're going to see because they may be fighting Clemson for the ACC title to go to Charlotte, or they're trying to survive with hopefully the guy doesn't get Coach Dorian doesn't get fired.
Yeah, and honestly, there was actually a fourth ACC school on the schedule. Liberty was supposed to go to UVA, but they got that moved back a couple of years so that way they could get UConn on the schedule to help the Huskies fill out their first slate as an FBS independent. The schedule was ambitious. And, these are interesting games for Liberty this year. If you look at Virginia Tech bringing in a new defensive coordinator in Justin Hamilton, that's going to be his first game calling the plays. And do we know what that defense is going to look like? How is he going to adjust based on, what Liberty's doing in that game? And that might be a good game for him to get his feet wet before Penn State. But again, does he take his lumps or does that defense come out firing? We don't know. Syracuse was a team that last year, didn't look great, but wore down Liberty because, they were able to use that offensive line. And then, we saw what happened later. They went to Maryland, got blown out. Then the wheels kind of came off the cues. And I kind of am interested to see how they bounce back this year under Dino Babers and especially, how they do offensively. And then NC State, like you said, which team are you going to get? Are you going to get a team that's going to challenge Clemson to go to the ACC title game? Or are you going to get one that's kind of been middle of the road a few years? And as Hugh Freeze said after the Cure Bowl win, you're not going to win all of them, but you want to get one. And if you can get one with the slate Liberty has, that might get them to where they're safely in bowl eligibility picture.
Damien, one thing that Herbie and I, we obviously cover majority ACC. The one thing that we always look at, even before the season, we look at the out-of-conference schedule. It's a big determinant, and I think, a lot of these schedules are done years beforehand, but I've got to tell you, when we look over the schedule, to say that it's challenging, we mentioned the 3 ACC teams. What does it say about the university putting these teams on their schedule? Where, quite frankly, they could have went a number of different routes. But I love the statement. But in your opinion, what does it say about the direction of this program and their competitiveness?
Well, it's also very regional if you look at that, because even though the series are very economically friendly for all sides. Virginia Tech and NC State are both Virginia Tech's paying Liberty $500,000. And then when Virginia Tech makes 2 trips to Lynchburg, they're getting $250,000 each time in the 6-game series. NC State's paying Liberty, I believe, $1 million. And, for them, that's not that bad for a bus trip. And then Syracuse, the 3-game series, Liberty and Syracuse are exchanging guarantees. 19 last year and 20 this year, and then Syracuse is paying a little bit more for 21. So Liberty is making a statement with being able to schedule regional opponents and getting some money out of it. And as they've built the schedule, you're seeing a lot of regional opponents. Appalachian State's going to come up on the schedule soon. You got Georgia Southern, Georgia State coming up on the schedule soon. They're scheduling very regionally. And then APC, Wake Forest has a 3-game series coming up. Duke has a 3-game series coming up. They've really hit the Carolina schools. And I'm be remiss to say UNC. There's a 3-game series with Tar Heels coming up as well. So they've been trying to schedule as regional as possible. And the ACC fits right into Liberty's footprint of being very regional. And they've been able to be successful at scheduling those ACC teams. And then, Liberty wants to get West Virginia on the schedule as well. They want to get Maryland because those are regional. And I think as they start scheduling further out, they've already got 24 completed. As we see 25, 26, 27, 28 come onto the schedule, you'll see more regional rivalries, and that's something that's appealing to an FBS fan base. And as Liberty keeps improving with its recruiting class and building more of a FBS roster, you'll start seeing, instead of 2 to 3 ACC schools a year, maybe 3 to 4, kind of like what Notre Dame is doing right now with that scheduling alliance. Liberty's going to want more ACC schools on the schedule because those draw more. Those are household names. And that's something that will help Liberty, because if you're, from a recruiting standpoint, if you're saying we're playing 4 ACC schools a year and you get a strong quality non-power 5 schedule in there as well, that's appealing to an athlete, especially if, their belief system and, their core values match with Liberty's mission. And that's where Liberty's done well in the recruiting trail. They've been able to find those kids that are 3 stars that fit Liberty's mold. And, that's something that they've been able to be very successful at in the recruiting trail.
Well, Damien, I think, will you ever see Liberty go into a conference, or they're going to be like Notre Dame, enjoy being independent and have anybody come in and put them on their schedule? Because I know Notre Dame wants to be in the ACC for other sports, but when it comes to football, they got that NBC type money. And, is Liberty trying to look for that too? Like maybe Masson hooking them up and say, hey, we could put you on a network or like Masson and do all those games for you, or, or some kind of regional network?
Well, Liberty has an agreement with ESPN for all of its home football games. And right now they're all on the streaming platform, ESPN Plus. And what Liberty's hoping is that as its brand starts to expand and you get those more high-profile games that come to Lynchburg, you'll see more games on the linear networks like ESPN, ESPN2, and more likely ESPNU. That's something they're trying to build on. President Jerry Falwell Jr. has said that he likes being independent because of the scheduling flexibility. But if you have a conference, say like the American or Conference USA, even though that bridge got hurt a little bit a few years ago when Conference USA, it was revealed that Conference USA turned down, I believe, a $24 million entry fee that Liberty was willing to pay to basically tell Liberty, you're not coming in. And, the normal entry fee there is $2 million. So Liberty was willing to pay a boatload of money to get Conference USA, and they turned them down. And Harry Minion from the Daily Press down in Newport News wrote about that a few years ago, and that turned a lot of heads because that was a lot of money. But I think Liberty's very content being football independent and then playing in the ASUN conference for all other sports. It's a 9-team conference right now. It's a kind of a mid-major if you're looking at basketball. But if you get a major conference like I would say an American that wants to invite Liberty, it would be hard-pressed to turn that down because that's a good conference that's in the Power 6 discussion. I know the AAC has been pushing that for a while. That would be a conference that if it approached Liberty might have a hard time saying no to that.
Exactly. Well, Damien, thank you so much for coming on. Give everybody your Twitter handle so they can follow you, because I know you and you do a lot of work with Mike Barber sometimes, and Mike Barber and I are good friends as well. So give everybody your Twitter handle.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Damien Sordelett, DAMIEN SORDELETT. All my work that I post for the News in Advance and newsadvance.com, have it on there on a daily basis.
Thanks, Damien.
I want to wish you and your family a happy 4th of July, and I'll be down in your neck of the woods Sunday, so for a week.
Absolutely, guys. Enjoy the holiday weekend and stay safe.
Appreciate it. You take care. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, folks. That's Damien. Does a good job with the folks at down there in Lynchburg, Virginia. So, it's time to wrap up the show. Program reminder: we won't be on next Wednesday. I know everybody is giving us the we need a break once in a while. So, so we'll be back on July 15th at 7 o'clock. Talk Major League Baseball, college football. Get ready for media day. We'll see what Euan's been cooking and what kind of ribs. Yeah, he's been cooking over the weekend. We should have a cooking hour.
We could do anything, Herbie. But hey, great show. Fantastic job with the graphics and getting our guests on, Herbie. Please give your lady my best and your parents, and your brother, certainly, nieces, what have you. Give everybody in the family my best. Great job, and I will talk to you later, Herbie. Fantastic, man. I'm out of here from Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, buddy. Well, I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July, and be safe. I know a lot of areas don't have their fireworks going on, but be safe and be smart. Like my mom says to me all the time. And also, one more thing. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Yeah, we gotta say,
you're killing me.
You gotta have to say happy.
All right, buddy. So long.
All right, buddy. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you in 2 weeks here on Herbie Fence Sports Radio. Now to them, let's get Bobby off this squad here. Now to them, I'm Chris Heidel. Have a great evening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.